Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Office Hours. It's just me again this week. Soda and Bertrand, I think you guys pretty much joined at the exact same time. So I'll go to Bertrand, who's first in the list.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hello. I was absent for some time, but now I'm back.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, with a little problem.
That's what these are for.
Yeah, that's right. Can I share my screen?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, it's not. Oh. Okay. Well, let me see how I can do this because I'm not used to this anymore.
Can you not find it in the UI?
I see maybe the plus share screen. Yeah. Okay. I see something. Okay. Can chart downloads WeWeb. Maybe this one.
There we go.
Okay. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I only wonder why everything is repeated, what I said. I hear it twice. So what I said,
Yes,
I'm hearing right
you
now.
might have to mute the YouTube stream.
Sorry?
Mute the YouTube stream or close the YouTube stream.
I see. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Wait a minute. I'm just. I hope that.
I think you just closed the restream. Okay. Give since Bertrand, I'll give Bertrand just 2 minutes to join back, Soda, because I think he'll join back in a second. Hey, William. There's Bertrand back. Okay, we'll switch back to Bertrand.
Sorry.
Hey, Bertrand. Yeah, no worries. When you
Sorry.
disappeared, I knew exactly what had happened. No worries.
I know what happened, but I closed the wrong tab.
Yes. No worries.
Okay. So again, I share my screen, and
Yes.
this is.
Before you do, just make sure you mute the YouTube stream.
It's not open anymore.
Okay.
So
just double checking.
Yeah. Okay, this one. Okay, as you can see, I got a Gantt chart here, and this was created using AI. I created a page that was fine, but when I want to just, for instance, remove the duplicate label because I don't know why it's there. You see on the left, it's twice in this layout. And I want to instruct AI to do this for me. It always gives me an error message. Always, even in other instances, I never can use it for anything.
Yeah, so at the minute, unfortunately, there's no workaround for the error you're getting.
Yeah.
There should be a release tomorrow, though, which should resolve this. So tomorrow, we're releasing basically a new way for you to handle what context gets passed to the AI. Because right now, whenever you try and prompt it, it takes in the entire context of your project and it can get overloaded. So tomorrow, there'll be a release, hopefully tomorrow, if not Thursday, where you just have more control over this. So you can basically customize what you pass in. So you'll no longer get the error. For now, what I think we can do is it's slightly zoomed out for me, but I think it says, the label says task 3, and then there's another 3 underneath it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. I can, you see, oh, no, whoa, no, it's
worries.
a little.
Yeah, I think if you zoom back out, I think I get the gist of it.
Yeah, so you see the second, and to the left, you see that there is a second taskbar label icon. Well, let's say item. And this is when I delete this, all tasks have no name anymore. I can just show you. I delete this. You see, then it's still here, but the others have gone.
Right. I guess so. If you undo that.
Yeah.
Let's check, because I guess there must be some kind of conditional display set up on them. So if you first click any of them, I guess, either of the taskbar label elements, we'll check them one after the other. So if you select one of them, and then you go into the edit mode in the top right.
Yeah, okay.
And if you scroll down to the display property, okay, so it's not display. Maybe if you check in the settings tab in the middle, so the sliders one, yep, okay, that's all good then. So it's not being conditionally displayed or rendered. And now if you choose the other taskbar label element, so the culprit of this, I guess.
Yeah.
And then if you scroll down on the right, just see what the conditional rendering is. So that's on. If you now go back to the pen icon on the first tab, yep. And then scroll up a little bit to the display property. Okay, so they're both displayed at both times.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I'd want to check then is what their content is bound to. So if you scroll to the top and click on this one, yep. Okay, so the item data.name.
This is a fixed variable. So yeah. It's the same, I think, for both.
And
this one also. The second one is.
If you in this formula panel, if you just scroll down slightly so I can see the entire data, so name, end date, progress, so there's just, okay, that's very odd.
Yeah. This was AI.
Yeah, that's very odd then.
Or I can try deleting the second label because I never tried this. Then it's a little bit different. Maybe this works because I just have to resize it, maybe.
And then if you, on this text element, if on the right-hand side, if you scroll down slightly, and you turn no wrap on, that one you have your mouse over now, yep.
I think this is too small. It might display task 3, but it doesn't because it's the space is not enough.
On the progress bar element, so the one that this text element is inside of, if you click that, and then on the right-hand side, you scroll to the very bottom. And then if you open just above this animations tab, there's an effects tab. If you open that and then you scroll down slightly, there'll be an overflow property.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you put that to visible. Okay. Maybe not then. And if you, maybe it's coming from above it. If you click the taskbar element on the left, I'm just trying to see which.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this. And just before we do this, if you click the taskbar container at the top, just above this one. Okay, yeah, so it's the taskbar. So if you click on the taskbar again, the one beneath this, I think this is the one that is constraining the width. So if you put this overflow to visible.
Visible.
And put the progress bar to visible, the one beneath it as well. And then if this doesn't work, then we can figure out hacky way. Okay, apologies. Let's put them both back to unset and we'll do the other method. I thought that might do something with it, but it didn't. So the other thing we can do is if you just click on the taskbar label, because I guess the it's always going to be a certain.
It has a certain width, I think, which is not. Maybe it's not enough.
It's
not big enough.
Yeah, so I see it because the taskbar label is
overflow hidden. Wait a minute. Here's something. Why is it? No, well, it doesn't.
If you drag this taskbar label text element outside of the progress bar, and so put it to be instead inside of the taskbar, so you just drag it out of here and then drag it to be, yeah, exactly there. Does that do the job?
No, because you see, the others have gone. The others are not displayed anymore.
And if you click on the taskbar label text element, and then you, on the right-hand side, you scroll to the very bottom again. We want the position property. It's near the very bottom. There we go. It was in the effects panel just beneath this. If you change the position, put it to absolute. And then put the top position to, I just want to make sure this works first. Put the top position to 0 and then the left position to 0. But they're not visible. That's very odd.
Yeah. Okay, I think let's don't waste our time. I will try to figure out this, or I wait till tomorrow when AI can help me.
Yeah, because it's it would be basically we can fix this definitely, but we'll be going back and forth on it. It's odd that if you want to continue with it, it's something to do with the positioning, because when you moved the taskbar label into the taskbar, the reason I don't think you can see the elements any longer is because the progress bar is somehow moving the positioning of the label. So I suspect because you could see it on that very last bar because there's no progress. So I think it's something to do with the fact because the progress bar doesn't exist, or something to do with the fact it's width is so small in the last one.
You mean the blue bar?
Exactly. So I think it's something to do with the positions of the text element and that bar are conflicting, which is why you can actually see it on the last one because there is no blue bar. Yeah.
This is hidden by the blue, dark blue. Yeah.
Let's try one. Sorry, before we do this, Bertrand, one last test.
Yeah.
We might have had a eureka moment when you were saying that. On the taskbar label, if on the effects you scroll down slightly.
I'm on the taskbar.
If you turn Z-axis on. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. But as you can see here, task 3, there are still two. It seems that there are two fields.
I think it's just a visual thing. If you put it into preview mode, I think it should look correct. I think that's just when you're in edit mode.
You're right. Okay, you fixed it. You are the best.
Last thing, I don't think you need absolute positioning. I think all along it was an issue with the Z-axis.
Wait a minute. Where was it done? Which one was absolute?
The taskbar label. I think you can put the position back to normal because I don't think the positioning was the issue in the end. Position
normal. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter.
No, it didn't. Yeah. Okay, maybe it was a combination. So actually undo that. Maybe you do need absolute positioning, because I think the progress bar is conflicting with the text element. Yeah. So there we go.
Okay, but the issue is resolved, and well, I will try fixing other issues if there are using AI from tomorrow.
Super.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Cheers. Glad we could resolve it.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, cool. The next person in the queue was Soda. I shall bring Soda in. Hey, Soda, can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you hear me
good? Yes, all good.
Is it mandatory to put the camera on, or?
No, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay. It's my first time in office hour. I start WeWeb since 4 weeks, but I have a boot camp of 1 week. It was very intensive. I don't understand too much thing. And after I left time and I restart to start test it and practice. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay, I think you can see that. I have, normally I have a collection, two collection, and I try to add a paginator component here in behind. Sorry, my English is not very fluent, but I try to speak.
No worries.
Okay, so paginator the element is this one, because I tried too much time. So my collection show me, because I'm connected now, I'm logged in now, so I can see the contact from Zano. Yep. But when I bind paginator with the collection, no function. You can see I can move, and I suspect this thing. When I go in contact collection, they show me contact collection must be an array. So I supposed that in my layout, when I go to contact list, I go too far, I think. Contact data item, but if I just select contact, nothing on this page.
Yes, I suspect so. Could you open up the collection again? So in the data panel, could you open up the contacts collection again for me?
I try to do custom, not custom, too much thing. Here you are.
Super. And just to double check, it definitely has current pages one. Yes, you have multiple pages. Okay, cool. I wanted to double check that. Yeah, so but you're correct, because it's returning an object right now and not an array.
Yeah.
You would have to set up the custom pagination.
Yeah, so, I can use it.
What you would need to do is you would need to actually do this on the Xano side.
I must do what?
You do it on the Xano side. So do you want to, we can set it up now if you want. It will take like 5 to 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah. Would you like to do it now? Yep. Yes. Okay, cool. You have it already. So you have the per page, you have the offset. We can use the offset. So in your Xano endpoint right now,
I go to Xano now?
Yes. So the endpoint you just showed me to get the contacts.
Okay, contact here.
What is it? What are you doing right now in the logic with the offset input?
I just take all the contact from my database, and when we try to do it, we add add-on avatar image, but for this display, I just want to see my contact list.
Yeah. Okay. In the Xano endpoint.
Yeah.
Where you were doing that query for the contacts table, on the far right, there's a tab called external.
On the far right, yeah.
If you go into that external tab.
External tab. Where is?
External. So you see right now you're on
External.
the output tab.
Okay.
Yeah. And if there'll be an input called offset. So if you scroll down.
Yeah, too much. Again?
Okay, it's already being passed in. Okay, cool. So this is already working as we need it to, because the input offset is already being used here. So we can use this. So if you go back into WeWeb.
Yeah.
And I think you had two pagination elements. One was set up to use custom pagination, or was it not set up yet?
Oh, I can delete just because one time I tried to transform one paginator element in component to see if it's work, but the both don't work. I can delete it or just hide.
Have you got a blank paginator? If not, let's just drag a new paginator onto the page.
Let me know. Could you write because the time I understand your question?
No, can you hear me okay? Is it the connection?
No, it's okay.
If you click on one of the pagination elements.
Okay, let me back here. Okay, I go to previous mode.
Yeah, go to WeWeb, and if you click on one of the pagination elements.
Okay, paginator element, layout. Attends, je vais cacher celui qui sert à rien parce qu'en fait, I'm gonna hide what is not function and like it will be better. Okay, so I let just this one paginator element here.
Yes.
And I go on settings. Here the contact collection.
If you turn on custom pagination.
Custom pagination, okay.
And give me just 1 second because it's a bit delayed on my side. Okay, cool. For the items, for all of these settings, we're now going to want to bind them. So if you press the plug icon beside total items.
Total items, yeah.
And now if you find your contacts collection.
Contact collection. May I go so deeply or?
Yeah, no, this is good. And so now you see there's a total field.
Total.
Although it's 0 for some reason. Does that make sense? That's a bit odd. I don't know why it's returning 0. Is there could you go back to Xano? I just want to check how you have the query set up because I don't think it should return 0. If you go onto the output tab.
Output tab.
The middle one?
Middle one. This one? No, output tab. Sorry.
No worries. And yeah, so you are returning the totals. That's weird. If you go back into WeWeb and you go into the data tab where the collection was.
Where is the collection was? Yes.
So yes, current page is 1.
It's maybe because I tried to do this exercise we made with the profs, the teachers, and there is 2 versions. The easy version with paginator with WeWeb.
Yeah.
And after we try to do expert version, but I think it's the last version that take the main control. Or
okay.
I don't know. But I want to know how function the easy version first of all.
If you wanted the easy version, you would need to have this return an array. So what you can do then is if in your Xano endpoint.
I should go back to Xano endpoint.
You see the way on this tab you're on right now, you see the way it has paging?
Mm-hmm.
If you click onto that, you have enable paging ticked and you'll want to untick it.
Disable all?
Yeah, and disable enable paging.
Okay.
And now apply it.
Okay. Attends. Alors, and apply. Okay.
Yes. And then, sorry, it's a bit delayed on my side. Yep, and then press done.
Down. Okay. May I publish it or
Yep,
no?
publish it. Yep, publish it.
I can write go back to easy version. Okay. To easy pagination. Sure. Yeah. Go back to easy pagination. Okay.
And now once this is published in WeWeb.
I reload.
Yes, refetch it from Xano.
Okay. Now it's okay. Now I can see the space.
Yes, and so how you had it set up before should work again. So like where you had, so if you turn off custom pagination and just set it to use the contacts collection, it should work okay.
Oh, okay. Tag. But I lost my collection.
Yes, it was because it was because before the items were in a field. Now they're not in that field anymore. So in the layout tree, you just need to go to that list of items where you had it bound and just change what it's bound to.
No, this one. Is this one? Yes.
I think so.
Yes, it's this one. Contacts. May I put contact or contact data items?
Just the data. So if you just click data, it should work.
Yeah. Now it's good. Woo.
Yes.
So we can use two ways to do pagination finally.
Yes, I'll because the way you were trying to do it, there is pros to doing it that way, even though it's a bit more advanced, because like if you wanted to display certain things in your interface, like you wanted to display the total number of items, and also for performance reasons, it can be a bit better because like right now, whenever you get that collection, you're pulling in, I think it was 200 items. So you're retrieving all 200 items at once, which could be quite slow. It's not too slow right now because it's only 200 items. But if you were pulling in like 3,000 items, it can be quite slow. So if at any point in time you find that the performance is quite bad because you're retrieving so many items, then you might want to figure out how to do it the way you were trying to do it, with basically using the pagination in Xano.
If I want to use just less than 200 items on my page, I can use paginator component from WeWeb. But if I need more, it's better to use Xano pagination with two more settings advanced.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, probably 200 items wouldn't be the max. It's probably more than that. But whenever you feel like it's getting quite slow, then you'd probably want to try and figure out how to break it up by using that pagination in Xano.
Okay.
If you're ever curious, I'll put a video in the chat. It's a YouTube video we have on it where Joyce, a member from the team, she walks through how to set it up, if you're ever curious.
Okay, I'm going to check it because I want to know how to re-put the hard version.
Yeah, no, it's very useful when you get it working.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. Take care.
The office hour is each week or one time per month?
No, it's every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Central European time.
Okay, nice. Very nice.
Super. Well, hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Cool. Right. Okay, I shall go through the questions that we had in the chat in the meantime. Finally, a Gantt chart. Yes, a Gantt chart. William says, it's funny because I'm trying to create one as well. My use case is I need to have the bars to be draggable along the timeline and resize them holding left, right size. Yeah, that's very difficult. Lucas says, is it possible to create a time counter in minutes and seconds to tell the time of a task and always pausing and counting when the timer is stopped? It would be possible, Lucas. How complex it would be kind of depends on the UI. I'm imagining like if I load up on my phone, if you wanted something like this, where you just start it and it runs, it's pretty simple. But if you wanted something more like this, where you see you kind of have the radial countdown, that's a bit more complicated. So how complex it will be kind of depends on the UI you want around it. But in terms of just having a timer that you can start and stop, it'd be very simple. Easiest way, in truth, would just be to ask AI. You could ask it to create a custom component to do this, or you could just ask it to do it via workflows and elements natively in WeWeb. It could do it either way. And then how complex it gets ultimately kind of just depends on the UI, but I'd really recommend asking AI because it should be able to do something like that pretty easily. Matthew, how would it be possible to have a tutorial on how to make elements draggable, resizable in a Gantt chart? That would be actually awesome. Yes, I hope to do some more advanced tutorials in the next couple of weeks. I will try and find something for you in the meantime, William, because I know I saw somewhere a couple of weeks back in the community, someone made something draggable / resizable and they were using CSS. So I'll try and dig that out. For the Gantt chart, I'd love to know how you're doing that. If you're just doing it with elements, the way Bertrand was. If you are, and I'll try and find this topic where they were talking about how to make something draggable. But how you'd have to go about it is you could use something like CSS to allow an element to be resizable. The hard part is you would then need JavaScript to detect when it's been resized and somehow save that. And that's the hard part. But as I say, I hope to do a tutorial on it in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, I'll try and dig out this post. Give me 1 second. So I'll put 2 posts in the chat for you, William, in the meantime. There are 2 different approaches of how you can do this. The second one I'm going to put in is just on how you can make it resizable, but I haven't had a chance to figure out how you would actually save what the user does. You didn't find a way to save the resizing of the div. Was it the one where they use CSS? Because I put 2 in the chat. Were you looking at the second one or the first one? Because yeah, I know for the second one, there isn't a solution on how to save it. But I think for the first one, and I haven't had a chance to properly actually look through the post, so I don't know. But I think in the first one I put, there might have been a solution on how to actually save it. Because the crux of saving it would just be as long as you have the value or you have some kind of way to figure out what they resized it to, you might need to save it on your side. So having some kind of variable set up that saved the local, and then whatever let's say they resize it to like 500 pixels, saving that 500 to a local variable, and then passing that in as the width of the element. But like I say, I haven't had a chance to properly read through the one I put if it describes how to save it. Cheers, let me know. Another question from Lucas. Another question, when I add a modal, I lose context of a task that is related to an ID. How do I put the context of ID for the modal? I have a Kanban, and when I click on a task, I would like to go to the task details, but I lose the previous context and I can't. Yes. I'll put a video in the chat for you, Lucas. I did a build guide on something like this, where I had like a product page, and when I clicked on a product card, I wanted to open a product detail pop-up, and I did something similar, but I pass in the ID of that product to the pop-up, and it basically shows a detailed view of that product card. So that should help. I'd recommend having a quick watch of that. I put it in the chat. Hey Eric, is there a way to soft fail on a Supabase query in a workflow? Currently it triggers the error workflow. I'd like to continue the existing workflow and just handle it with a decision. Unfortunately not. I don't believe there is. Flo isn't with me this week, unfortunately. He might have like a hacky workaround answer that I don't know about. But no, unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, if a query fails, it throws a certain error code, then it just gets flagged as an error, and it always triggers the error workflow. So unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, I don't believe so. Unless you could I guess it depends on whether it's a Supabase query. I was going to say if it was an edge function, maybe you could figure out something in the logic so that if there's an error that you handle, you throw a success code, but you give some kind of response that indicates it's a soft fail. But if it's a query, then that you aren't handling, then I don't think it would be possible, unfortunately. Hey, Sean. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it'd be possible, Eric, at least this with the current plugin setup. Apologies. Can you tell us more about the AI update for tomorrow? Yes, so basically it's just an overhauled way to handle context that gets passed to the AI. So right now, whenever you submit a prompt to the AI, it takes in context of your whole project, which is both good and bad because there's no chance of it missing anything. But there's the bad side because right now there's some errors that get thrown if your project is too large. So basically tomorrow, you'll just have more granular control over what context gets passed to the AI. So you can choose to pass the entire context of your project, but if you get errors or for whatever reason you'd rather not send the whole context because you think it might just cause confusion and it might be unnecessary, then you can control things like should only the page context get passed, should only the selected element gets passed, but then also things like the dependencies of those things. So if you pass in the entire page, it will then pass in any workflows that are on the page, any variables, any formulas, that kind of thing. And same for elements. So if you choose to only pass in the selected elements, then it will also pass in its dependencies. So if the element has bindings that use formulas, or it has workflows that use other project level workflows, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just a more granular way to control exactly what context gets passed to the AI, and a bunch of other quality of life things like no code workflows, or before or currently AI generates coded workflows. So it's a JavaScript action that you can then convert to no code. But from now on, the default will be it turns those workflows into no code. So there's a bunch of other quality of life improvements. What's the best practice to implement roles outside of WeWeb? It depends exactly on what backend you're using, BinFreak. Yeah, it depends on your backend, because the best practice on how you go about it would be very dependent. Like Superbase's UX of how you would do that is very different to Xama's UX, so it depends on the backend you're using. I spent Temutug 2 days. Some things did not work. Sorry to hear that. Some notices appearing in red. I believe this ate all my credits. Can you tell me good practices to use AI? So I guess the advice I would give would be whenever we can get this update out, fingers crossed it's tomorrow. But I'd be very conscious of how much context you pass in. So just trying best to scope the context to exactly what is needed. So if you're making an edit to an element on the page, and I don't know, you have a button selected and you want the AI to have a workflow on the button, and you know exactly what workflow you want it to use, or maybe you want it to create a workflow that uses a very specific formula or utilizes a certain collection or variable, passing in as specific as you can be, just the context that's needed to the AI. So it can do what it needs to do, and it doesn't have an unnecessary context, basically. And in terms of good practices, I think just trying to break up the work as much as possible. And then this goes for not only our AI, but pretty much any AI out there. It goes back to the scoping stuff. The more you can best give it one task at a time, as opposed to giving it 50 tasks at a time, usually the better the output. So yeah, in general, just the more you can scope the work, whether that be scoping the actual context you give it or scoping what you want it to do, so asking it to do one task at a time, I find personally that usually just leads to a better output. But sorry to hear it didn't work. Yeah. If you have any feedback on this, by the way, please do. This isn't the best place to leave it because I can't record this, but if you have any feedback on the AI itself, Lucas, please do feel free to get in touch. We have an intercom widget in the editor, so please do feel free to get in touch and leave your feedback through that, because then it can go through the official feedback process. Any thoughts on this issue? I have a data table with a drop-down in a custom cell, but the drop-down can't have a z-index that goes outside of the cell. Yes. So is it, when you say a drop-down, Eric, is it a select or is it actually a drop-down? So you have something custom in the actual pop-up of the drop-down, let's say. Yeah, it also is kind of contextual, Lucas. So in the case of creating a Gantt chart, and this is something we need to improve better in the UX, and it should be improved better in the coming days with the update, because we're tweaking basically how you control what different agents you use. But for creating a Gantt chart, you're probably better asking it to create a custom coded component for a Gantt chart, as opposed to trying to create it natively just using elements in the editor. So for something like that, I think it'd be very difficult for it to create it just all in the editor. You're probably better suited to try and ask it to create a custom coded component to do that. So in that example, it's kind of contextual. It takes a bit of know-how because I've obviously used the AI, and so I know it's better to ask it to build a custom coded component for that. But for any other standard tasks, I think It should work pretty well. But yeah, if you're asking for a Gantt chart, probably better to ask for a custom coded component, I think, just because of how much, it's quite a bit of advanced logic, basically. Is it correct that I can only ask written questions in YouTube, not in Restream? Messages are read only in Restream. If you, no, you can ask messages here if you want, Bertrand. If you're asking if they're visible to everyone, then yeah, regardless of what channel you put them in, they're visible to everyone. But if you just want to ask a question, then you're more than welcome to put it in either of the chats. It is a drop down. Okay, in that case, Eric, yeah, that's a tough one because right now, unfortunately, there's no way to do it natively out of the box. What you can do though, it's complex, but it works, is you can record the X and Y position of the element that was clicked. So let's say you have a button that is supposed to, let's say you have this custom column and you have a button in all of the cells that's supposed to trigger the opening of the dropdown. Whenever one of these buttons gets pressed, you can record its X and Y position. And you can have, let's say you have this dropdown element that you want to show. You would have a single dropdown div somewhere on the page with a fixed position. And its X and Y position, you would have bound to a variable. And that variable would be the one that tracks whatever X and Y position was clicked for the button. So let's say I click this button, its X and Y position is, its X is 10 and its Y is 10 for the sake of the example. You save those X and Y coordinates to this variable, and this fixed position dropdown, its X and Y position are bound to this variable. So basically you can position this fixed dropdown to be wherever the button that was clicked is on the page, and then you can give it an offset. So like if they click this button that's X10, Y10, in your logic to save those numbers, you, I don't know, apply an offset to take away or add 10 pixels so that the drop down appears beneath it as opposed to directly on top of it. So unfortunately, it's a bit convoluted to set up, but it can be done with a bit of tinkering. As the dropdown is a hover and there are multiple in the cell, see the link I sent. I think I might have missed the link. Where did you put the link? I'm not too sure of your exact use case, Eric, but I'll quickly, since there's no other questions, I'll quickly just show you what I mean so we can set this up together. So for instance, I won't go through the process of putting the data grid on the page, but I'll give you enough to hopefully go off. So for instance, if I just put this div on the page, and I give it something that lets us see it like so, and I will create a something to store the positions. So what I can do is I'm just going to give this, actually I don't need to give it an ID. So add a workflow and I'll say on mouse enter, I'm going to change a variable value and I want to change, let's say, the X position. And this is a bit of a advanced method. Okay, I don't think I'll have a chance to look at it, Eric, but I'll walk through this because hopefully it'll give you something to go off. I can say this instance, and this basically gives me all of the properties of this current element. So I can say, I think it's .x. Let's find it. There's something here to get the X and Y position. Give me just 1 second. Okay. I have to check exactly how to use JavaScript to get this. But the premise would be, Eric, is that you could utilize this instance to basically get this element. And I'm not sure if you could use the offset. Let's use the offset for now, just out of curiosity. So I could do offset width for the X position. And then I don't know if this will actually position it correctly, but hopefully it's just enough as an example. And then I could say offset height. The fact that these are both 100 makes me think this won't work correctly, but hey ho, we can give it a go. I'll drag this other div onto the page and I'll call it fixed drop down. And I'll make this 25, 25, and I will make it blue. And I'll just, so we have some values. I'm going to test this. So the position has some coordinates. And then for the fixed drop down, I will give it a fixed position and I will bind its top to be the Y and plus pixels, and its left to be something like this. And I can tell from where this is positioned that it's not using the correct values. But hopefully this gives you something to go off. You could definitely, at least as far as I'm thinking through a use case, you definitely could do it regardless of whether or not you need it to be on hover or how many items are in the cell. You just need some kind of workflow on each specific element that uses this instance, or you can get the element via its ID and just saves its X and Y position, and then have some kind of fixed element with its top and left position bound to those X and Y coordinates. It would be great to have an advanced Mapbox tutorial to show how to customize the Mapbox element, how to add clustering or markers. Yeah, no, I agree, William. I really want to do some more advanced tutorials over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, up to now it's kind of just been a general cleanup, which has involved some of the more basic tutorials, but I really want to do some of the more advanced stuff over the next couple of weeks. Can you configure some suggestion, or can you give some suggestions, sorry, on how to configure a project in WeWeb to speed up the rendering loading of HTML, JavaScript once we publish? Yes, I can give a few. The first thing I would say is just try and keep the number of elements on the page at an absolute minimum. So sometimes the biggest culprit for rendering times is people will have, let's say if I use this div as an example, they'll have repeat items on. And if I put this fixed drop down inside of here, they'll have something like this with a realistic design for repeating items, but they'll have, you know, like 100 items in this repeating list. And this isn't too intensive because it's just a single rectangle. But you can imagine if you've got like 100 product cards and each product card has nested items, that is pretty much always the biggest speed culprit, is that people are using repeating items and have many, many elements on the page. And those elements have nested elements, but they don't realize how much of performance impact it has. So that's the first thing. The other thing sometimes is, and this depends on how advanced you've got, sometimes people use custom JavaScript and they don't realize that the custom JavaScript they're running is actually quite performance intensive. So maybe they're doing some kind of data manipulation, and that data manipulation is very heavy, but they don't realize it. Or in some cases, they actually try and set up an event listener, and that event listener leads to some kind of memory leak, because with event listeners, you want to make sure that when you're done with that event listener, so when you go to a different page and the component or the element is no longer needed, you want to get rid of that event listener. But sometimes people don't realize they need to do that, and so they set up a memory leak. So sometimes the speed and performance stuff and the rendering times comes down to how people are using custom JavaScript. What else? Many elements on the page. Along with having many elements on the page, you obviously want to optimize your API load times. So even if I had repeat items off, if let's say I had the display of this rectangle bound to a collection, I don't have any collections in this project, but let's say I do. If I only display this element when the collection is fetched, but it takes 20 seconds to fetch that collection, then it obviously gives the appearance that the page is extremely slow. But in reality, what's slow is how long it actually takes to get the data. So if you have anything that is dependent on having the data ready, then you want to make sure that you've optimized those queries so they can be as quickly as possible, because your slow data fetching can give the illusion that your page is actually quite slow, when in reality it's the data loading that's slow. And the other thing, and this doesn't really affect this doesn't affect load times too much, but it can do if you use it extensively and extensively, and I didn't realize this before, is that, I don't know how well you can see this when I'm screen sharing, but this width property has this white rectangle behind it. And if I click onto the width property, I can reset the styling. But for this max width property, for example, it doesn't have this white background. And so when I click onto it, there's no option to reset the styling. So basically what this means is whenever you see this white background and you have the option to reset the styling, that means there's actually a line in the CSS, in the HTML, for this property. This was something I only learned after a while. And so for instance, this padding right now, there's no white background, I can't reset it. But if I put this to 5, I can reset it. But now if I put it back to 0, so I actually put it back to the default value, I can still reset this. So even though I've manually changed this back to be 0 and be the default value, because I've changed it, it's now created a custom line in the CSS. And so the only way to actually remove this from the CSS is by clicking onto it and pressing reset style. So that gets rid of that line in CSS. And if you do this in many different places, I don't want to say it can have performance impacts because I'd really have to speak to the devs, but it does add a custom line to the CSS. And if you do this on a couple of elements, is it going to make a difference in load times? So what I mean by that is if you have a bunch of custom lines of unnecessary CSS, is it going to make a difference to load times? Probably not. If you do this across pages, is it going to make a difference to load times? Probably not. But if you do it in an entire project and you're not too careful about it, will it make a difference to load times? Perhaps, but this is probably the last thing I'd look at, because it's probably a difference of milliseconds at the most, but it's one the devs would have to give you a proper explanation for, but I just know it exists. So I know you can at times if you're not aware of this feature, you can add unnecessary lines of CSS. One other thing, Sean, before I forget, is multi-page sections. I don't really have anything in this example project that can illustrate it well. So I will put a link in the chat that goes to the docs. But if you're using multiple sections across pages, so let's say you have the same top nav on every single page of your project, you would want that top nav to be a multi-page section, because the nice thing about multi-page sections is that they don't have to re-render across pages. So they basically don't have to reload. So it can be quite snappy. I will put a link to the docs in the YouTube chat. So pagination helps on speed times or loads all records regardless of pagination. Pagination helps on speed times or it loads? Pagination would definitely help speed times, yeah. It would help speed times in both ways, where from a data querying perspective, if you're paginating that data, when you get it in the first place, then instead of having to retrieve, let's say 1,000 records, you only retrieve 10, then the actual fetch they get the data will be quicker because you're retrieving far less number of records. And then in terms of actually showing it on the front end, in that example, you're kind of forced to use pagination because you wouldn't want to show 1,000 items in a list because it definitely would have performance impacts. So showing some kind of paginated list is a much better approach. So it would speed it up in both regards because it would speed up the data fetch, but it would also speed up your front end in terms of load times because it would have to load far less elements than if you were showing the entire list of items. Do you have an example of a very complex enterprise level web app that was created with WeWeb? What I can do, William, is I know we have a case studies page, and we've also done streams in the past on this channel that were kind of customer stories and case studies. So yeah, I'd recommend having a look through those because in those, they actually walk through the tools that they built and how they did so. I'll put a link to the chat here to the case studies page. I just realized on the specific case studies pages, when you click onto them here, there's a link to the YouTube stream that they did at the very top. So you can click into any of those and there's the streams that they did walking through it. Hydration, honestly, Sean, that's one I'm not too sure of. I've never heard it be brought up though, so I don't think it would have that much of an impact. You can turn on hydration for sections. You can't do it for divs, obviously, but you can do it for sections. But in terms of how much an impact it has, that's one, unfortunately, I'm actually not too sure on. But I've never heard it be talked about internally, so I don't think it has that much of an impact. But sorry, if you mean hydration is like the same as a multi-page section, partially, yes. The biggest impact with multi-page sections is that they don't have to re-render. Cool. Okay, right. That's us. We are at the hour. Thanks everyone so much for joining. As always, we do these every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Central European time. Usually Flo, our CPO, is able to join me for these. He hasn't the past few weeks, he's been out, but I hope he can be here next week to join me. He can give more details on some of the more intricate stuff that he might have hacky workarounds for. So yes, cheers.